All right, so welcome to a presentation and conversation with Forrest Weston. This presentation is a part of our Vose or virtual Wednesday series that we're trying very hard to get off the ground. And my name is Deborah Lay, and I'm the library director at Vose Library. We're happy you've chosen to spend the next hour with us. And so rather than going through all of the housekeeping, it's really just asking people on the virtual end to remain muted. There will be time for Weston to take, Forrest to take questions, probably at the end, Forrest, if that's okay.
Well, and I'll address that as we talk, but I want people to feel free to ask as we go through, because, you know, sometimes if you try to wait to the end, what's on your mind,
Okay.
you kind of slip.
So I'll manage those of us that are Zooming then. And if you have questions on Zoom, please either write it in the chat or unmute, and we'll make sure we can get the question to Forrest.
Feel free to break in at any point.
Okay. And then, as you can see on the screen, those of you who are Zooming, we like to acknowledge that our mission at Vose Library is to advance learning, inspire curiosity, enrich lives, and promote community. And so let me introduce our guest, Forrest. Forrest has worked 40 years as a forester, yes, Forrest the forester, and began playing didgeridoo 12 years ago. He's a strong proponent of using the didge as a meditational and healing aid, especially in outdoor settings. Hold on, just letting people in. Sorry about that. Okay. He's played publicly for most of the 12 years and often accompanied groups playing Celtic and other folk music. Forrest is available to teach didgeridoo lessons and give sound therapy sessions. Okay, that must be the kickoff sound. All right, so without further ado, Forrest, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I really appreciate you coming tonight. Deb said I started playing about 12 years ago, and it was really by accident, actually. I was at a friend's house visiting, and he said, "Can you excuse me a little bit? I need to take my son to band practice." I was asked what he played, expecting a pretty traditional instrument. He said, "I play didgeridoo." I had no idea what he meant. He said, "I play didgeridoo." His father had to get it out, and he was probably 15 or 16. He played it, and he played quite well. And as soon as I heard it, I knew that I had to play that instrument. So it hooked me right there. Within a few weeks, I was able to rudimentary playing, and once got pretty good at it. And I do want everybody to please ask questions as they come through.
So you taught yourself? You taught yourself?
Yeah, with some help from obviously some online. There wasn't much of a YouTube, or I didn't do it at the time, but there were some online resources as well as some books. But you had to dig pretty hard to find out how to do that. To get the actual drone, I had played trumpet as a young boy, but to get the actual drone, it's similar to a trumpet in that you're buzzing your lips, but it's a much slower buzz with a lower frequency. So I was able to get the drone. The toughest part of learning to play is circular breathing, and I'll go into that a little bit more later on. But you have to be able to keep a continuous tone. That's the toughest part. That took a little bit longer. I would like to suggest for the folks at home trying to listen on the computers, if you have some headphones or a good quality speaker system, please use them, because you're going to lose a lot of the low frequencies of the didgeridoo if you're trying to just listen to the little speakers on your computer. Now, you'll still hear it, but it won't sound anything near like it does otherwise. Yeah. I think most everybody here knows that the didgeridoo as far as we know, originated in Australia. It, the Aboriginal people, all the indigenous tribes, and they had different names for it. Didgeridoo is not what they call it. That's something the Europeans called it, probably because of the sound of it as you're playing it. But we call it one of the name terms that some of the tribes use over there is yadaki, the shorter, straighter didgeridoo. Similar to this one, that is actually, this is actually an Australian produced, Aboriginal made. It's the only one that I have. It's actually from Australia. It's made of eucalyptus, followed by termites, and obviously decorated and trimmed and bark stripped off of it all by hand. This one is in the key of E. They were originally used mostly as a method of storytelling. Obviously, as in most native cultures, a lot of their social was spent around a fireside and relating stories of their hunting, their gathering, their daily lives. And they used the didgeridoo, people would dance, and they would use that to tell a story and to enhance the story, similarly as we would with a musical performance today. Here, while I was trying to vocalize in there, was some sounds of perhaps a wolf call, perhaps an owl call, and they often imitated the sounds of their native animals. And this one is similarly made in that it is a hollow wood, and it was naturally hollow. This one hollowed by ants rather than termites because it's from central Maine. It's a northern white cedar. Much lighter wood, not quite as resonant as the eucalyptus is. This one, again, hollowed by ants and fungus. And I did the cleanup on it and stripped what bark was left on it. So about 150-year-old. It was really freshly dead when I found it in the woods. But very similar in sound. This one's obviously a lower tone. I personally prefer some of the lower tone because I like the meditational aspect of them. Again, mostly for storytelling, was their social life. And interestingly enough, in those days, it was not considered proper for a woman to play with. Now, thankfully, we have plenty of women who play it. One of their, it also has a religious, I want to use the word religious, but they use the didgeridoo to connect with what they refer to as the dream time. Dream time, again, it's a grossly inadequate English word to describe everything that ever was, everything that ever will be, and the presence of a overall force that controls us all, an unchallengeable sacred authority. which is not too far off from a lot of modern day. They used the didgeridoo. They thought that felt that helped them connect with their dream times. And I try to play in honor of the people that developed these. I don't try to mimic them because I can't. Obviously, I'm not from Australia, so I don't try to make believe I am. I try to adapt it to some modern uses. And a lot of parts of the world had very similar instruments, even though we think of, when anybody says didgeridoo, we think of the Australians. But most parts of the world had something similar, and they weren't all made of wood. They are found in Scandinavian countries some long horns with large mouthpieces, but very few shreds of wood left. But they do find the iron bands that bound those. They certainly appear by the size of the mouthpiece, because when you have a large mouthpiece and a very large throat on it, you can't play it so much like a regular trumpet or trombone. That open mouth, open neck, wide neck here that's one reason that you can vocalize through it. So that can be both good and bad if you're trying to get a real clear tone. Advantage to either, but if you want to vocalize through one, you need that open, wide neck. This one here is a copy, not an exact copy, but the mouthpiece diameter, the neck diameter, the bell diameter, all the same as some that were unearthed in the peat bogs in Ireland. Some examples in the Dublin Museum. I would love to see someday. Absolutely beautiful cast bronze, some very thin wall castings that they still are not very good at replicating, but they did this back 3,000 years ago. Pretty amazing that they could do it. There is a little bit different tone to the metal ones, of course. Yeah, this one is tuned to a precise D, because I have used this one to play with Celtic musicians quite often. So they're playing in D or G, which an awful lot of Irish music is, that this works well with that. This one carries a little bit more than the others. A little bit different sound, a little louder. We're playing with a lot of fiddlers and high-toned whistles. Of course, those tones all carry very well, and you need to be able to stand up to those a little bit more. And from all evidence that they found, the metal ones were probably used in group settings and playing with other instruments, so that they would have carried far better than the wooden ones. Again, they're referred to as a lip reed aerophone, which means a lip reed just means you're buzzing your lips rather than having a reed that you would find in a clarinet or a saxophone. Played just like a trumpet or a trombone, only with a slower lip buzz, that's all. And this one is actually referred to as a dord, by the way, D-O-R-D. So if you're looking for, and if you're looking those up online or anywhere else, look for dord the instrument, because apparently there's Webster has some definition of a dord of a word that's not a word. So Google dord instrument, not just dord. And about any genre of music is accompanied with a didge. Rock and roll, a lot of hip hop. A lot of hip hop folks are using them now. There are some Aboriginal people who actually sit in with some symphonic orchestras and play certain parts in those. One of the more popular ones, and some of you probably seen Jim Doble with his gongs. He and I play together fairly regularly. We started this summer, and it's been a lot of fun. But used as a sound immersion, a meditational aid, music therapy, if you will, sound healing. There can be a lot of benefits from that. And really, that's where most of my interests lie, is more in the meditational and spiritual or healing aspects of the didge. It's unique in that it does produce a continuous tone like that. Most of them, people will stop briefly, but they stop to breathe, to take in more air so that they can continue to play the instrument. To play these, you use a technique called circular breathing. And some people refer to it as breathing in and out at the same time, which obviously is physiologically impossible. The lungs, the diaphragm can only go one direction at once, but what happens is when your lungs, you fill your lungs to start, as you would with any horn or wind instrument, and as your lungs start to get empty, you store some air through your throat, through your cheeks, all from here up. You store some air, and you use that air to keep the instrument playing while you take a quick breath through your nose. And that sounds odd, but when I'm breathing in, I'm gonna go like this. And if you understand how it's done and you see when it's done, you can hear it in the music as it's played. You just continue on like that. And there are actually some other wind instruments also do use circular breathing, some European kind of lesser known reed instruments that are designed for playing a continuous tone. But there's some saxophonists that seem to have a competition going of who can play the longest continuous note, and they tend to play in E flat, which I mean that's what the horns are in, so they play this E flat, and the longest one is, let me see, it's 51.5 minutes, and that was set by a Nigerian saxophonist in 2017. There's a few others that they started, I think, in the 40-minute range, and it sounds like a long time, and especially if you're holding just one continuous note. All I can think is it must be extremely boring to either do or listen to. But they like to hold one note. There are lots of didge players who can play continuously for over an hour, and I've done that on a number of occasions, and that's not an unusual thing. So even though the Guinness Book of World Records says it's 51.5 minutes, there are many others who have played a lot longer than that continuously. That's about. Any questions on the circular breathing? That's kind of a different. Anybody from home there, Deb? That's got a.
I don't see any questions. Nothing's popping up.
Okay. All right.
Let me just poke in. Any questions for Forrest right now from anybody? We know you're there.
It's all right.
Okay.
One question I have, you were taking pretty short intakes of breath. Yeah.
Yep.
So you,
You can't do it when you get a cold.
yeah.
If your sinuses are full,
Yeah.
you either need to do a nasal rinse, you have to stay clear, or it's not going to work.
Not gonna work.
And other than being a forester, I'm also allergic to trees, tree pollen, so
Ah.
that comes in handy both with ditch playing and forestry. So, yeah, it's a very quick motion, and you can pull quite a lot of air in very, very quickly.
Well, the two examples you showed were all naturally hollow,
Mm-hmm.
and then aided. Are other woods used besides cedar and eucalyptus?
Absolutely. If there's a wood out there, somebody's using it. Absolutely. And you can make them out of any wood or lots of materials. I mean, there are people who've made them out of, you can take like cardboard and layer that up and glue it and make a long cone out of that. And they actually play very well, which of course cardboard is wood fiber anyway. And there's a lot of them that I actually have an agave one that I made from an agave stock that was in Florida. We harvested the plant. My dad and I did this for a neighbor who it had flowered, so once they put the big flower stalk up, that's it. The plant's dead after that. So it was in its very last stages, and the neighbor didn't want the plant there, and he was complaining about it. So I'll take care of that for you. So I dug it up and cleaned up his yard and took that. And that one, not being hollow, I mean, it has a pith center, so it's a soft center, but not being hollow in any natural way. I ran it along a bandsaw, split the two halves open, and scooped it all out. I mean, it's a way to get nice thin walls because you have really good control over what you're hauling. Some people look at it as a way of cheating, but there's an awful lot of didgeridoo out there that are made from being split and hauled. And you can do that with, you can take a 4x4 from the lumber store and split that down, hollow it out, shape it, and you'll have a wonderful ditch. And they're really not that complicated, as evidenced by the plumbing parts. So it is. I mean, the only thing fancy about this is that it's been heated and bent to just make it a little bit more playable, a little easier to handle. And my wife painted some fancy flowers on it. But other than that, it's just plain old plumbing parts, and they actually sound very good. There are some commercial fiberglass ones made. There are some that are made out of. They're actually very short. I should have brought it tonight. I didn't bring it with me, but it's like a spiral shape or a curved shape like this. And it's just two boards put together, cut to a pattern, and then you hollow them out, take them apart, hollow them out, and glue them back together. And it sounds wonderful. So you can get a very compact unit, something that's very portable. So.
How does the length of one of these relate to the sound?
That's how you get your actual tuning. If you want to tune one to a specific key, you start, and just like, let's just say with the PVC pipe. I started with this, it was probably out here, and put it all together and if you have a perfect cylinder, if you take a straight piece of pipe, which again can play, that's how I learned to play, is on a straight piece of pipe, 1 1/4 inch well pipe, is all it was, polyethylene well pipe, and if it is a perfect cylinder, I've got a chart that says that 47 3/8 inches equals a D, and it does. If you make it 47 3/8 and you play that, you have got a perfect D. So, and obviously that varies some with temperature and humidity and all that, but just like any horn. So, and the longer you go, the deeper the sound. The shorter you go, the higher the sound. That's why this the short one is an E, This one is actually a C. And of course, when I say it's a C, obviously I'm able to bend that a lot by manipulating my tongue and cheeks and throat, just like you would bend a harmonica player bends a harmonica to get the notes that are in between. And you can some of these, the more conical it is, the more you can bend it. The harder it is to tune, the more conical. It's more conical because you have to start a little extra long. Like with this one, I wasn't sure just how long it was going to be. It's obviously a conical shape, and in order to get that exact D, I had to leave the head pipe long, and then cut it in half-inch increments until I got down to where I wanted. So it's fairly simple to tune. You just have a regular tuner beside you, that any musician would use, and just keep cutting a little bit at a time on. Cut too much, then you go to the next one down. Just like any carpentry, you gotta, better to cut too little than too much. Yeah.
Can this always be taught with a teacher? There's no such thing as sheet music or something like this?
No. No,
So
because technically you've only got one note. You've got one note that you can bend, but it's not like, and there are some that slide like a trombone, but you're not playing, it's a rhythm instrument. It's great. It can actually mimic almost mimic a drum, sort of thing. There's all sorts of sounds, and again, if you get on YouTube, you're going to hear people doing some crazy things. Some of it appeals to me, some of it doesn't, but it all takes some talent and imagination to do, so it's all good. A lot of the hip-hop players, you can imagine that if you're going to play along with some rap music, you're going to play some... Yeah, it's definitely different. But no, there is no sheet music because you've only got one note, so it's more of a rhythm instrument. It's about controlling your lips and vocal cavities, and you actually become part of the instrument because you're hollow from here all the way up through your throat and your mouth and down through the horn. So part of that resonance is your body, and you feel that when you play.
So how did you find a direction to do it yourself? How were you able to teach yourself to play it? It seems complex, all what you're doing with your mouth, tongue, and that kind of stuff. How did you learn that?
I think I must have had a natural proclivity to it, and some people find it very difficult. I have a friend, actually the one whose son was playing in the band, he's an outstanding musician. He plays bagpipes, he plays pretty much anything going. He plays guitar, plays everything. He cannot play didgeridoo, which, I mean, he's 1,000 times the musician I could ever hope to be, but he can't play a didgeridoo. I can't, so I win. It just, actually, anybody can circular breathe. If you stand in the shower, grab a mouthful of water, make a little tiny hole, squeeze it out, and breathe in and out through your nose, you're circular breathing. Technically. Now, then when you get, so you don't have any water, because the water will make your throat naturally close. So that helps a little bit. Because obviously you're going to gag if you don't. So once you get so you can do that, just do it with a stream of air instead of a stream of water. And if you do it with a stream of air, then the next step is your lips buzzing. So it's simpler than what it sounds like at first. And once you get that past your head and get that concept in there, it's really not that difficult. It becomes second nature after a while.
Question on the wooden ones. Are they consistently hollow, or is it just
No,
it
a
varies?
lot of variations. And they all, even the very best termite hollowed ones, and they will go around with a stick or a hammer or something to rap on the trees and listen to see if it sounds hollow. And when they find one that sounds real hollow, now it probably is, but it might have one side of it that is, you know, maybe one part that termites didn't eat for some reason, or there's a knot there that the termites didn't eat. And, you know, this one had a lot of that. Had a lot of the small knots. Because cedar, when it's young, has all kinds of little branches, and there were a lot of those in there. But you can take an iron rod. Sometimes they heat them up to burn the things out. I also do some metal smithing, so I just took a piece of rebar and forged the end into a little chiseled gouge shape and use that to clean them out with. But they all need some cleaning out. There's no such thing as one that starts out perfectly
So
hollow.
it's not perfect, it's not smooth on the inside.
No, if you could take a bore scope and go down here, you can see that goes this way and then it comes back this way, and not at all straight and perfectly smooth. And that's one that's already been done. You still need to follow the natural shapes. So if there aren't any more questions right now, I'll just take everybody on just a brief little meditation here for a couple of minutes. And, that's kind of what we do when Jim and I play together is with the gongs. It's probably more effective with the gongs, but a lot of people like the didge by itself as well. keys, quite relaxing. It's a wonderful feeling to play. A lot of pleasant nights by the fire doing that. Anything from anybody online, Deborah?
Any question? Oh, maybe. If you have a question, you'll need to unmute.
Hi, it's Bethany. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. Do you teach lessons?
I've done that one. That was really frustrating for the GC, but those things easy when you
Oh, for some strange reason, the audio just cut out.
It might perhaps. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I think we can try it. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I do give lessons. I have found that while I've had some people who will stick to it, I think probably most music teachers end up with this, that it's easy to get frustrated when you're learning an instrument, and you just have to be easy on yourself and keep trying.
How would we get your contact information? I actually have tinkered around with didgeridoo for a few years and finally got the hang of circular breathing, which was a lot of fun.
For you.
So, Bethany, if you want to just email me at the library again, I can put you in touch with Forrest that way.
It says nothing about didgeridoo on it, but
Okay.
it has all my contact information.
All right. Sound okay? Okay. Anybody else have questions? Keep popping in the screen.
Same question.
That was your question, Carol?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a didge. I don't know how to play. So.
Okay. Okay, well, you've got the didge. That's good.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to learn and doesn't have a didge, again, I learned to play on a piece of irrigation pipe, probably 3 feet long, and that's all you need to learn to play. And you can quite good. One of my better didges is a piece of 2-inch irrigation pipe and I've used some beeswax to fashion a bored out mouthpiece on the end of it. But yeah, you don't need anything fancy. You don't have to spend a lot of money.
With a regular cutoff, just a blunt cutoff at the
Well,
end.
I did flare the end some.
Yeah.
I just heated it up
Similar
and
to-
forced it over a wine bottle. Yeah. Which is exactly how this PVC one was done too. My mother enjoyed Chardonnay quite well. She happened to have a bottle handy, so there we go.
So does that help with the sound?
It helps project it better, and the more of a flare that you have, and the more that comes to a perpendicular angle to the bore, the more it projects that sound. And if you look at some of the ancient, there's also a site that if people are interested, ancientmusicireland.com.
Huh.
And you'll see some big steel ones that came later into the Iron Age, and they have a disc on the outside of them that is built, and it is just a disc that's, I don't know if it's forged welded, I don't know how it's affixed, but it is just a disc, and they use that to project that extra sound. A lot of those are battle horns that they would carry into battle.
The size, because obviously.
Yes. Yes.
Does that affect if that's a C or whatever, whatever it was, does the mouthpiece have to be a certain size, or is it just in relation to the pipe?
It's more in relation to the length of the pipe. Now, obviously, the diameter comes into play. But again, if you have a perfectly cylindrical pipe, and you just took this section of pipe, no matter how long you make that pipe, the mouthpiece will work. Now, when you get into the real extreme long lengths and you're trying to play very low frequencies, the larger the diameter of that mouthpiece, the easier it'll be to play because your lips are free to vibrate more slowly, because if they're vibrating slowly, they need more room to vibrate. So, but it doesn't affect the tone per se. It may make it easier or harder to play, but it doesn't affect the tone.
Okay.
Very simple, about as simple an instrument as you can get. Any hollow tube, you pick up a piece of vacuum cleaner pipe. You pick it up and play it. Again, not very aesthetic, but it plays.
Take a break, I'm going to play my vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, exactly. More fun than vacuuming.
Does anybody else have any questions for Forrest? His questions were great.
And did you make the metal horn?
Yes.
You did.
Yeah, that is, when we moved into the house we were in, we had to do a lot of rehabbing, but one of the things it had was some copper-lined brick planters inside.
Oh.
And didn't want the planters there, so I ended up with a lot of copper. So I got all the sheet copper.
Wow.
The brass, this piece of brass tubing came from it was an old set of doorbells hanging up with all the tubes.
Huh.
So that piece of brass tubing came from there. This section in here is all sheet copper. This piece is some copper pipe that I've shaped. And this piece is actually look familiar name, buddy?
Yeah.
Look under your sink.
Crap.
Yep, pretty simple stuff. It was easier than buying a tubing bender.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper.
Wow.
So, and this is just this bell is just hammered around the mandrel, and there's a solder seam here that's if you're familiar with regular horn construction, that's basically how they make every trumpet or trombone is done the same way with that kind of seam, and then they spin it so and form it as it's spun, so you don't see the seam. This one, the seam is quite visible on this because it's never spun. It's hammered and soldered up just like any traditional horn construction.
And when you to get a certain note, or
Yes.
you were.
Yeah, I needed the D to play because I had used, when I first started playing with the Irish music folks, I had this one. And it was a D, but it was off. It's a little bit flat. And, that doesn't really work. It doesn't sound as good as it would. So I was up to constructing horn like that. And obviously I wanted it as close to the originals as possible. The originals have a little bit wider bend to them. Other than that, they're very, very similar. And again, the diameter here and the diameter here are the same. And my length is probably a little different because I tuned it to that exact D.
So will you give us a concert on one of your other ones?
Sure. Which one would you like?
The one you're holding?
Okay. Now, there's another technique that is used sometimes. I'm not that crazy about it, but a lot of people use it. So, toots, yay and nay. They're commonly used in a lot of the, a lot of popular music stuff. They will do that. I don't find it very restful, certainly. But, It's hip hop, exactly, right. And a lot of the and again, obviously, accompanying with other instruments.
We used to do a lot of contra dancing, and the didgeridoo added a lot to that music, you know, when the didgeridoo would come in. It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah, and now, where were you doing this? Was it?
around here.
Okay, so local ditch player. Yeah. Fun.
Yeah,
Fun.
yeah. It always, you know, amped up the energy a little bit in the room. and-
Yeah. Yeah, it can add a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Just for a brief moment, I felt it sounded like a mouth harp. Some of the musical vibration.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
and again, the sound is shaped the same way. If you take a jaw harp
Yeah.
and play that, you probably tried one, and you're just moving just as you would pronounce. Well, and I'll show you an exercise you do using vowels, but it's done the same way. You're moving your tongue, and you move your tongue forward, you move your tongue back. You're changing the shape and size of your mouth cavity.
Huh.
And one of the exercises that I use when I teach somebody, and when I learned, is to recite the vowels. Just and other words, you know, you can try words to it.
Yeah. Huh.
And you just try different, you know, and animal sounds are fun to do. But that's, and it's a good way to practice,
Yeah.
so that you have the control of your, not that you need to make.
Sounds like something out of Star Wars. Sound,
Yeah.
but they're sounding very strange.
Yeah, it's very odd.
And they spend all that money on synthesizers.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And you can make it.
I have a question. I have a question.
Okay.
Is it the vibrations that help with healing? Music therapy, I think, works on the premise of vibrations to heal different parts of the body.
Okay. You can hold on 1 minute. Someone in the audience here is actually asking Forrest a question, and then when they're done,
Exactly.
I'll have you repeat your question.
Yeah.
One second.
I've got one that's just make sure you make it too long. Make it too long. It was a few inches.
Forrest, would you mind just stepping up just a little closer? And I don't see your name, so I don't know your name who asked the question, but would you ask it again, please?
Yeah, is it the vibrations that help with the healing? I know music therapy, different vibrations affect different parts of the body.
Yes, absolutely. And I
Same thing.
know which frequencies, I don't have it memorized, which frequencies affect which chakra.
Yeah.
But absolutely,
Okay.
vibrational energy. Kind of an interesting aside. There's the Stone Age in Ireland called New Grange. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically a stone structure, an earth mound. And it is
Yep.
set up so that, I don't remember if it's solstice or equinox, but whichever it comes in, it's a certain spot on the wall, kind of used as a calendar. The very interesting thing is that the inner chamber is tuned to a G.
Cool.
And most captors center around it, and most medical people, there's a lot of proof out there that actually heal themselves. So there's the frequencies and the healing of the sound frequency. And I think people really don't like to get locked into saying that 64 hertz will help your heart. And I think a lot of that is what you feel. You know when you feel something that makes you feel better, whether it's psychologically better, physically better. You know, the two are so tied together, I don't think we can separate them.
Thank you.
Very, very welcome.
Quick question for Forrest.
Yeah.
Any performances coming up?
Let me see. There's one October 15th at the amphitheater in Camden that's with Gongs with Jim Doble. And hopefully weather will permit for that one. That's probably be the last one of the season for that outdoor series at the amphitheater. I think if you're interested, you'd really enjoy the combination of
Two thumbs up on that.
the
Yeah.
gongs and the didgeridoo go very well together.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
they
was a
do.
wonderful performance.
That's wonderful. Can't wait.
And I don't remember the time on that, but if you go to the Camden Public Library site, they will have it listed on there.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, maybe Deborah will come up with something.
Maybe. We just had them last Friday. You never know.
Yep.
One more time.
She did.
Uh-huh.
She's done one, and it's getting cold fast. Though.
Yes, it is.
So you know,
Yes,
a lot
it
of these will have to be midday, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
High noon.
We have time for maybe one or two more questions for Forrest before we conclude. Anybody?
Oh, I would just go for another couple minutes on a different one.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
And tell us what you really want.
That's what I want.
What's that?
Oh, he was making fun of me.
No.
In a very kind way. Oh, yeah.
Well, since
You have a cat.
a couple,
A
yeah.
couple, okay. I noticed one on the bell of plastic. Little one.
Oh yes, yeah.
Little
Yeah.
painted one
Some
there.
yes, absolutely, yes. My wife painted that.
Huh.
She's very partial to cats, as am I, but
Good. Same here.
I guess I should ask. Do you like something quicker or something slower?
Whatever.
Okay.
wonderful.
Yeah. It's so interesting because you want to clap, but then you don't want to clap. You just want to appreciate it.
Shouldn't clap.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a clapping kind of
No,
performance.
it's not.
I don't think. It's not that type of thing.
It's different. I think sometimes people go to an event and they think it's going to be like a concert.
Right.
You go to a concert and you watch it. The best thing you can do at a ditch performance is get really comfortable, bring a pillow, lay back,
Yeah.
and just relax because that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Well, it worked. All right. So I'm just going to close out for our recording here. So that concludes our presentation. Jump in front of the camera. Here we go. For this evening, all of us at Vose Library, thank you for attending our Vose virtual series. And we hope that you'll spread the word and also join us next Wednesday, September 29th at 7 p.m. Now, this one is going to be totally virtual with Gigi Georges, the author of Down East, 5 Maine Girls and the Unseen Story of Rural America. She's going to offer a behind-the-scenes book talk. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and thank you for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
Well done, Boris.
Yeah,
Very well
that was
done.
great.
Yeah.